Hello everyone, welcome back to Helldivers 2. This video was supposed to be a rant about the current state of the jump pack. And if you've seen any of my previous Helldivers 2 videos, you've probably heard me sing its praises on many occasions. I've loved it ever since I first unlocked it. I've ran it for damn near every mission outside of Eradicates, and sometimes even for those. Until recently. Prior to this scientific endeavor, I was prepared to talk about how the jump pack in its current state is barely usable since the 60 days of updates and the subsequent patch to fix the game's ragdoll chain issues. Jumps that used to be perfectly fine now ragdoll damn near every time. Arrowhead had finally given the jump pack some love, but not all of it good. The handicap of the constant ragdoll made it a net loss in my book. And since a fix never came, it was time for some science. I challenged myself to do 100 jumps without breaking into tears to run this once glorious POS through its paces. And I ended up being pretty surprised by the results. For a baseline, I started with a series of controlled jumps. 10 from a standing position, 10 when triggered while walking, and 10 when triggered while running at full bore. For you newer divers, let me set the scene. Originally, the jump pack wasn't for everyone. You had to walk uphill through the snow to get one, and not every diver had a tolerance for its original cooldown or the short jump duration. But for those that did, it was awesome. Cross a gorge? Okay. Climb a building? Check. Get out of jail free? Yes, sir! The whole 9 yards. Back then, it didn't have the forward thrust that it has now, so the distance that you covered with the jump was wholly dependent on the player's run speed at the time of activation. But you never fell on landing. Almost like, kind of like the Helldivers had actually been trained on how to use this damn thing. The worst thing that ever happened with the original jump pack setup was that if you did an overly long jump, like down a hillside, so you were in the air too long, the thruster would cut out before you landed and it wouldn't cushion your fall, so you'd take some fall damage. But you stayed on your feet. Then there was the dark fluid backpack that we used to turn Meridian into that snazzy black hole. Oh, that was a jump pack. Better lift, quicker ascent, much better traversal overall, and the same original landing mechanics. Divers touched down like they knew what they were doing. Sure, the dark fluid backpack had a tendency to self-destruct if the wind blew too hard, but damned if it wasn't a nice sign of what we all hoped was coming down the line for the regular jump pack with future updates. And then we had it. 60 days of updates. The jump pack overhauled. A shorter cooldown? I'll take it. Forward thrust for more traversal? Yes, please. But then we all found out about the ragdoll. That shit wasn't in the brochure. As I mentioned in my review of the best updates from the 60 days of updates, the jump pack had been given some nice utility, but with a distinct drawback: Arrowhead's apparent love of ragdoll. It happened often, and looking back on it now, it happened way too often, but at the time, it still seemed more or less functional. But everything seemed to get worse, at least from what I noticed, when Arrowhead addressed the ragdoll chains that were pissing everybody off. The first time I used my jump pack after they'd fixed being locked into just like a perpetual ragdoll state, I was like, oh, alright, ragdoll. I got up, I dusted myself off, and I went on with my mission. And then the next time I used my jump pack, I ragdolled again. And again. 9 out of 10 jumps ragdolled. It was fucking ridiculous. Now, some people will tell you that you have to let off the left joystick as you're landing, but that only kind of works, and there's a caveat to it. And others will tell you that it's all about the elevation change from takeoff and landing, but again, that's not really the issue. What we saw with the control jumps, and what I think we've all noticed during general play, is that if you're moving too quickly, you can all but guarantee that you're going to ragdoll on landing. Unless you happen to get that 1 in 10 fluke where you stick the landing for no reason we can understand. And as a Helldiver, we don't often get to just walk or stand around. We're running all the time, constantly. And now, this once dependable piece of equipment has suddenly become more of a hindrance than a help. Having to be standing or walking to use the jump pack effectively basically makes the forward thrust that they added to it pointless. A running jump with the original would give you better movement than what we currently get from a standing jump. And the new version, maybe with a walking jump, you might get as far as the original jump pack would have taken you. In its current state, it very much seemed like if you wanted to use the jump pack, you needed to stop, plot a fucking course, adjust for wind shear, calculate your angle of entry, all before you can use your jump pack to escape the enemies that just killed you while you were looking at your calculator. It didn't make any sense. Why would anybody think this was a good idea? And, to be fair, I still think it's kind of bullshit. That being said, in putting these jump montages together for this video, I noticed something that I hadn't previously, and it got me looking at the jump pack a little differently. So I've added another series of 10 jumps. The course corrections. Affectionately termed, the oh shit jumps. And while you absolutely cannot use the jump pack reliably while running full out in any direction, it seems you can effectively juke right or left from a full run, even just a bit, or you can hit the brakes entirely and throttle back. In each instance, you're blunting your forward momentum enough to stick the landing more often than not. And that made me realize that no, the jump pack isn't total shit now. It's just different. Where it used to be completely user-friendly, it now requires more practice and definitely a bit more finesse. And even then, it's not 100% reliable on landing. Which, for my money, is just, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other regarding the changes that they've made to the jump pack. The forward thrust is cool. The shorter cooldown is great. The ability to aim while jumping? Well, that doesn't fucking work. But the loss of being able to use it from a running start, I mean, that's a pretty big handicap. Then, while putting the oh shit montage together, I started thinking about how the biggest factor with the jump pack and ragdoll is momentum. And that got me wondering, what if I was sprinting slower than normal? Would I still ragdoll? So I ditched my go-to light armor and upped the ante to the Juggernaut armor, which, apart from looking badass, is a medium tier armor, meaning that it sprints slower than the light armor does. Now, at first I didn't notice a difference, but I kept at it, and then I noticed that if I let off the left joystick before landing with the Juggernaut armor, I stayed upright more often than not. Maybe we're onto something. After that, I packed on even more pounds and started using heavy armor so I could run with all the speed of an enraged snail. And sure as shit, this hefty bastard stuck the landing at least half the time from a full sprint across level ground. So, the jump pack becomes more reliable to an extent by pairing it with heavier armors. But while that's a neat little discovery for the sake of posterity, it doesn't really make me feel any better about the situation. So now, the question is, how do we fix this issue? Apart from just not using the jump pack. Well, to that end, I've got 2 ideas. Option 1, we keep the jump pack mechanics as they are and just lose the ragdoll. Go back to the original landing mechanics that we had. As if our divers actually know what they're doing. It makes no sense that Helldivers, who were supposed to be the best of the best, don't know how to land when they use this jump pack that they've presumably been trained on. Option 2 is arguably a bit more fun. We get a new armor perk. Shock absorption. Specifically to prevent ragdoll when using the jump pack. And while we're at it, we'll throw in no fall damage from those 3-foot drops that take a huge chunk of your life. Hell, they could even pair it with something, I don't know, call it Air Power, a perk that increases weapon damage while you're in the jump arc. Granted, this would require them to fix our ability to aim while we're jumping. I mean, I know it works for some of the guys that I play with, but every time I try it, that barrel is always pointed skyward, and I might as well be firing with my eyes closed. Which, to be fair, I mean, that's not too different from when I'm firing with my eyes open, but that's besides the point. Don't get me wrong, guys. Helldivers 2 is still fun as shit. Bottom line, I mean, the game's a blast. But it's frustrating as all hell to see a once functional piece of gear, something that you actually loved using, turn into something that you don't want to use because it's now too finicky. I mean, I kind of feel like I have an idea of what the railgunners felt like back when they nerfed the shit out of that. But hey, they made the railgun great again. And if you're curious about that, my buddy XenoGaming recently made a great video on that topic, link in the description. Okay, Shameless promotion, seamlessly integrated. Now back to my jump pack. It's not as good as it used to be. It's not total shit either. What it is disappointing. But in the last few months, Arrowhead has turned a lot around and earned back a ton of player goodwill. So I'm holding out hope. We'll see what happens. Until then, thanks for watching.